Hey guys, welcome back. This is the story about what if Deku was SubZero. After realizing that he was quirkless, the green-haired cinnamon roll boy decides to leave and train under the Grandmaster of Ninja known as the Lin Kuei. He will develop powers of the cold and ice, and take up UA in his return. There he will face the League of Villains, becoming future Grandmaster by his teacher, and will meet the Class 1A sweetheart and smartest female Momo Yaoyorozu. Before we start, thank you for all of the support, it really means a lot to me. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a like. So let's start the movie. Chapter 1. Izuku's narrative. Not all men were created equal. But in a world where quirks exist, those who are born with it are gifted. Sometimes others who do not have this power are referred to as quirkless. My name is Izuku Midoriya. I am Lin Kuei and I am the Grandmaster of the original hero SubZero. Years before UA, can someone without a quirk be a hero? Asked Midoriya. His teacher's voice broke his train of thought. You guys are all third years now, it's time to start thinking about your careers and futures seriously. I want to hand out these career forms, but I assume you all want to be heroes. He said as threw the papers in the air. Midoriya always wanted to be a hero, it was his dream, but he was born quirkless. On top of that, his childhood best friend became his bully, even giving him the nickname Deku, meaning useless. He made Izuku's life a living hell by teasing him, abusing him, and belittling him. You're aiming for A2, aren't you, Midoriya? Bakugo and the rest of the class turned to look at Midoriya. They all laughed at the idea of Midoriya becoming a hero, but Bakugo turned and slammed his hand on Midoriya's desk while adding an explosion, making him fall back on his chair. Forget them, you're quirkless, you're below everyone else and you think you can keep up with me, screamed Bakugo as he drove Midoriya to the back of the class. It's always been my dream and I thought I could try the entrance exam and try, said Midoriya as the whole class mocked him. After school, Midoriya was on his phone. All Might, the #1 hero and his idol, has been spotted nearby. As Midoriya picked up his quirk analysis notebook, Bakugo swipes it from Izuku's hand. Midoriya reaches out and in that moment Bakugo incinerates it and throws it out the window into a nearby pool of water. What I am trying to say is don't you dare go to you a nerd, said Bakugo as he put his hand on Izuku's uniform and started burning the uniform. As Bakugo was walking out the door with his friends, he said the words that would change Midoriya forever. If you want to be hero so bad, I've got an idea that might save you some. You think you'll have a quirk in your next life? Go jump off a roof, Bakugo said. Midoriya was filled with so many emotions in that moment. He quickly turned and gave a scared, angry glare at his former best friend, and his response was an evil smile whilst making explosions with his hand. Midoriya stood in his classroom all alone, crying and afraid. No friends, no shoulder to cry on except his mother. She is the only person in this world who is there for him, but it's not enough. Midoriya went outside to go pick up his notebook and he began having thoughts that no middle schooler should ever have. Why? Why is he allowed to this to me in front everyone, in front of the teachers? They just let him do what he wants. I may be quirkless, but I am human too. I am human, aren't I? Izuku's POV. As I was at home, my mother decided to take me to China to be trained by the Lin Kuei. At first, I don't know who are the Lin Kuei are, but my mother knows more about them. When we were in China, a ninja greeted us and Mom left me to train with the Grandmaster. Mom, who is he? I asked her with fear in my voice. My mom placed a hand on my head and rubbed my green hair, smiling. That is the Grandmaster. His name is SubZero, dear. But most people call him Kuei Liang. Inko explained to me. And as so, my training began with most of the students teaching me the ways of the Lin Kuei. Kuei Liang's POV. This kid, he has potential but lacks the confidence in himself. He will be great to us all. Since we have to stay in the shadows, I think it's time for the young boy Izuku to become a Grandmaster and live out his goals to be a hero. But he must pass a test, I thought as I felt Izuku's cold blood coursing through his veins. -10 months later, Izuku was now a master of combat. He is now an inch taller and his body is much more developed, just like Kuei Liang. Izuku's attitude was still the same but had developed a cool, calm but stoic face and determination to be a hero. Izuku's POV. Thank you, Grandmaster. I will see fit that I will continue training myself and become a greater hero just like my idol All Might, I said, smiling. My master Kuei Liang smiled as well, knowing what my destiny is. There is but one task you must perform to be called Grandmaster and continue your path. The original SubZero spoke as one of the students challenged me in Mortal Kombat. We fought and I was about to lose until something snapped and an ice sword appears in my hand. I cut his hands and legs before going for the kill. I stopped and looked at him with respect. I will not take another's life to be victorious. You have a great talent. It would be a waste to end it. I said as a master. My teacher was happy to know that I have changed for the better and now my goals to become a hero is upon me. Chapter 2. Momo's POV. As I was thinking about how I got in UA by recommendation. I always feel like I cheated to get in and not use my own skills to pass. But I want to be a hero ever since. Ever since a courageous young boy saved me from the bullies as a child. Flashback. Leave her alone, Kachan. You're hurting her. Izuku said as he stuck his arms out in protecting me from the ash blonde boy and his cronies. I was being bullied because of my quirk called creation. Because of it, Bakugo and his friends would try to beat me up. But my savior, a green hair boy, defended me and without a quirk nonetheless. Stay out this, you Deku. Bakugo spat as he launched an explosion at the green-haired savior who tanked the attack. You are nothing without a quirk, nerd. But since you want to play the hero, I can beat you to a bloody pulp to make you understand where your place is. Bakugo and his friends beat the poor boy down, which I was in shock as I hid behind the tree. Gasps. He saved me from those guys. He is my savior and, I thought as they finished their assault on the boy. I peeked my head to see if he was okay and he was. But he was bloodied and bruised. I was heartbroken to see him go through this as I approached him. Thank you for saving me. I began to blush and looked in his emerald green eyes of his. It's no problem. Kachan always does this whenever I step up. He always thinks that I am challenging him and thinking that I am better than him. Izuku said sighing. My name is Izuku Midoriya. And you? I jumped up from the sudden introduction of now Izuku Midoriya, who I find him cute and nice. Oh. My name is, I was cut off by my mother. Yaoyorozu, Momo. We have to go. Your father is coming back from work. Yaoyorozu. Yaoyorozu's mother was shocked to see me talking to the boy who saved me. She took my hand and looked at the boy who was covered in bruises. Dear, did he mess with you? She asked me, which I shook my head no and ran back to the boy. I hugged him tightly from behind, in which he was shocked at first, but I created a Matryoshka doll of myself. Here. I want you to have this. Please, think of me whenever we meet again. I said as Izuku smiled at me and then at the doll. I promise. Izuku said as I left with my mother. Flashback ends. Izuku's POV. As I make my way back to Musudafu, Japan, I was coming from the airport and plan on going to see my mother in over 10 months after she sent me to the Lin Kuei to train under the Grandmaster. It's been 10 months since I thought I was quirkless. But now, the original Grandmaster SubZero saw something in me that was even more powerful than any quirk. It was the power of the cold and ice. I thought as I walk on the streets of Musudafu only to see a certain black ponytail running from a group of thugs. Huh. Someone is in trouble. That hair. She reminds of someone I met at the park when I was just a kid. I better help her. I said as I went to an alley and froze myself. As I was frozen, I broke from my ice chamber and wore the colors of the Lin Kuei. Izuku's POV continued. I saw the female. She had a light purple skirt with a white button shirt. She was busty, and she had curves that most women envy, and she was beautiful at that. Her hair was tied up in a single flufftail look in her eyes. There were cat-like onyx black. Is that Momo? I internally screamed, but now was not the time to be gawking. I had to. No. I need to save Yaoyorozu. He. This one is sweet. So, who's going to dip into this honey love? One thug looked at Momo with evil intentions as well as the rest of his crew. How about you freeze? I threw an ice ball at one of the quirk-using thugs, leaving them frozen intact. The others tried to attack me, but I deliver a swift spinning roundhouse kick to the group, knocking them out, leaving their leader alone with a cornered Momo. Why don't you do her a favor and let her go? Or I will put you on ice. I said in a cool, calm and cold way. Try me, you punk ass. Gah. The leader was frozen to his legs and I immediately chopped him on the back of his neck, leaving him unconscious. Trust me when I say you cannot win. I looked at the unconscious thug in his group. Then I turned my attention to her. Are you all right, Ms. Yaoyorozu? I said to her, in which shocked her for me to know her name off the bat. Momo's POV. How did he do that? And how did he know my name? I thought as I looked into his emerald green eyes. Suddenly, it all came back to me. Those green eyes. Are you a Izuku? I asked the mysterious ninja whom saved me from the quirk thugs who were about to rape me or worse. I wish I could tell you, but you must wait a bit longer till the day of the UA school, Ms. Yaoyorizu. Until then, we will meet again, Izuku said as smoke of ice was in front of me. Could that be the boy who once saved me from Bakugo and his friends when we were children? Chapter 3. Izuku's Pov. I cannot believe how Momo changed. She is more gorgeous than before when we were kids. I thought as I walked up the stairs to my house where my mother was in. She greeted me with tears in her eyes. My baby. Inko's reaction was priceless. I smiled and chuckled at her actions. I'm okay, Mom. By the way, where's Kachan? I asked my mom. He is with his mom. You should visit the Bakugas. Mitsuki missed you a lot lately. Inko replies as she prepares katsudon for dinner. Right. I'm still planning on partaking the UA entrance exam. This is my path to being a hero. I told my mom, in which she hugs and smiled at me. I know. Please, be careful, dear. Inko said as she was proud of my progress. Ever since she sent me to the Lin Kuei temple in China, I have fully developed in the style of the Lin Kuei, and my powers as well. No longer I need a quirk to be a hero, I needed the willpower and soul of a legendary warrior who joined with the elder gods and other heroes to defend a place called Earthrealm in an ancient tournament called Mortal Kombat. That legend was Kuei Liang. Better known to people as SubZero. Meanwhile, Yaoyorizu Manor, is something troubles you, milady? A butler looked at the troubled teenage girl who was in awe of how Izuku, the boy who saved her as a child and just now. She couldn't help but smiled at the window and wondered, will they ever meet again? Milady, the butler asked again, in which Momo turned around. Oh, sorry. I was just thinking about someone in particular. He was somewhat handsome and very brave. She recalled what Izuku did. Flashback. I suggest that you freeze. Izuku froze the villain in his tracks before taking on the rest and saving Momo. Flashback ends. Momo's Pov was that his quirk he used to save me in the cornered alleyway. If that's so, his fighting techniques is something that I never seen. I thought as my mom and father were discussing about the hero business. Honey, are you excited to be in UA and becoming a top hero? My father asked me as I eat my supper. Yes, father. Indeed, I am ready. I will be a great hero. I said, but to my words, I really want Izuku to be at the prestigious school and be heroes together. I wonder what my heart is beating for, and for some reason the more I think about the green-haired boy who saved me, the more I want to get closer to him. Back with Izuku's Pov, as I was aware of Kachan being an ass, thinking that I am a pebble in his way to being the number one hero. I didn't care of being number one, all I care is protecting those around me with my own hands. I bet Bakugo is still the hot-headedness guy that still think his quirk is the most powerful thing to be the top hero. I thought as I was on my way to the prestigious school in the world UA. Ever since All Might met me and told me my dream is okay but must look into the reality of it, I thought about it and respect his words, but I cannot give up and live a normal life as a quirkless policeman. No, I live now as the new SubZero and possibly become Grandmaster and hero to everyone, saving them with a smile. This is it. Time to show the world what I can do. As I walk, I saw Kachan. Bakugo's Pov. What the hell is that Deku is doing here? If he thinks that he will beat me, I am going to kill him. I thought as I looked at him with his different personality. I knocked over a brown-haired girl. To my surprise, damn Deku saved her from falling. Deku. I growled at him as he helped her up, and that what angers me. He's changed. He's more confident in himself. He's not the person I knew who is crying and afraid of me, which I hate his guts more. Third Pov. In the auditorium of the building, applicants of various shapes and appearances have arrived to try and enter the best hero school in Japan, and none of them were willing to give up without a spot in this school without a fight. That was fine, cause neither was Izuku, just because he looked uninterested. The teen found himself a seat in the midsection and pulled out a pamphlet of the aspects of the exam that they were going to go over. While he was opening it, everyone's attention was drawn to the stage ahead, where the proctor of the exam was with crazy hair, sunglasses, and a weird contraption around his neck. It was the pro hero, Present Mike, whose voice was unmatched in volume and range, a human loudspeaker well respected for his hero work, but his personality and excitability levels got annoying after a while. Hey, They're young applicants. Welcome to the entrance exam for UA High. Let me hear you say hey. He shouted with the help of the device in his neck. No one, no even an insect said a thing as the room was dead silent. Alright, listeners. I'm about to give the lowdown on how things are gonna go for the exam. Just give me a shout out if you have any questions. Alright, he said as the room grew silent once again. After he got no response once again, Present Mike got to work explaining the ins and outs of the entrance exam, from the written portion of the exam to the physical portion that would take place at the location on the letter they received when they entered the building. It may have been a strange sixth sense, but Izuku could somehow hear Katsuki complaining about not being able to kick his ass. Not that he ever could, but this was Katsuki. Present Mike continued his explanation of the exam, reaching the point value of the robots they'd be fighting in the physical portion, but one person raised his hand and asked a question about an error on the pamphlet. According to the pamphlets, there are 4 types of villains, but you have only mentioned 3. If this is an error, it would be a big mistake for Japan's top hero molding institution. A teen with glasses said. Thanks for pointing that out. Number 7111. The 4th type of villain is an area trap worth 0 points, so when you see it, it's best to run away. Got it? Present Mike replied with his usual smile. The teen nods. Thank you for clearing that up. And you there? He said, pointing to Izuku, who had a spotlight shined on him. You have had the same uninterested look on your face since you first arrived, like you don't care if you pass or not. If that is true, please leave. You shouldn't become a hero if you're not in the least bit interested, he said as he kept glaring at Izuku. All eyes in the auditorium fell upon the time jumper as he kept staring at Tenya with the same look on his face and sighed at this guy's attitude. It's called remaining calm. I figured in certain situations, heroes need to keep a level head so that can handle a situation as rationally and safely as possible. Before you decided to call me out, I was thinking of the best way to handle the physical portion of the exam without trying to draw attention to myself. If I look uninterested, then I apologize. Now please, can you sit down so Present Mike can continue his presentation on the exam? Izuku said as he slightly furrowed his brow at the end. His calm demeanor and explanation for it threw everyone for a loop, showing that he wasn't uninterested but extremely focused. It caused a few of his fellow applicants to grow nervous of the exam, and if Izuku was like this, then he must have had a strong quirk to back it up. The teen nodded to Izuku and sat back down, and his surprised look stayed for a moment as everyone turned back to Present Mike, who also had a shocked look from how scarily calm Izuku was. He quickly shook off his shock and continued with the explanation while keeping an interested eye on Izuku. After the written portion, which Izuku passed with flying colors, all the applicants were now on a buses heading towards their designated test sites, displaying various emotions towards the physical portion, like excitement, nervousness, and near breakdowns from the stress, but Izuku kept his cool while wearing his green track suit with black accents. He had his eyes closed, arms crossed and left leg propped on his right as the bus moved, causing everyone around him to whisper about, sarcastic, surprisingly, him. How can he be so calm? Is he really that confident he'll pass? Said a boy. If he has a powerful quirk, he must be. Said a girl. HMPH, I think he's all bark and no bite. The moment we arrive, his cool will melt and he'll totally blow it. Said a confident girl. Izuku opened his eyes and looked around for who said that, causing everyone to instantly go silent for the rest of the ride until they were at the testing grounds. Everyone loaded off the bus and assembled near the front gate of the fake city, waiting for the test to start and stretching to make moving easier. Izuku looked around and kept a sharp eye out for any sign of the test to begin while scanning the competition. Though he wouldn't admit it, they all looked pretty strong, and no matter who got it, UA would get an interesting batch of heroes in training. As he continued to look around, he felt a hand grapple his shoulder, and caused him to turn around to the face of the boy who called him out earlier. I would like to apologize for earlier during the assembly. I had no right to judge you just from the appearance you were giving off. The teen said as he removed his hand and adjusted his glasses. Izuku just shrugged his shoulder and replied, "It's fine, I get that a lot." Izuku turned and stared at the gates as they began to open, drawing everyone's attention as they turned to the metal doors, watching as they opened slowly. No made a move until they heard feet more and see Izuku running in front of all of them, freezing most of the point robots and taking down the villains, gaining hero points and rescue points, leaving the other competitors in awe of how did this boy develop his quirk in a short amount of time. Everyone was doing their best, but while the group were making their marks, inside of a screening room on UA, multiple heroes including Present Mike were viewing the exam via hidden cameras placed around the testing grounds. Many participating applicants showed a variety of skills to destroy the mock villains and gain the point necessary to enter. A boy with blonde hair was shooting a robot with a laser from a special belt. The same guy with glasses that called Izuku out from earlier was current running at great speed thanks to what appeared to be pipes in his calves before kick a robot to pieces, and a girl with brown hair and a permanent blush on her cheeks was tapping robot left and right to make them float a good distance in the air before pressing her fingertips together and causing them to fall and crash to their destruction on the ground. Yes, these teens and many more have potential to be great heroes, but one stood out among them all. One with a quirk none of the heroes had ever seen before. The one they were watching was a teen under the name Izuku Midoriya, and he not only showed mastery of his quirk but also impressive physical prowess as well. Wow, look at that listener go. Present Mike shouted as he saw Izuku suddenly disappear from the front of a three-pointer and reappear behind it before destroying it with a strong kick. He certainly knows how to use his quirk, though I can't help but wonder what kind it is exactly. Wondered a man that looked to be made of concrete as he watched Izuku move in a flash. It seems like he has trained both body and quirk exceptionally well, far more than anyone I've ever seen. Said an animal-like man that looked like a large mouse. Yes, he has. Commented a shaggy-haired man with tired eyes as he watched Izuku take down 3 mock villains worth 2 points each without using his quirk. But we all know it takes more than just fighting skill to be a hero. The mouse man turned to the shaggy man and nodded in agreement. My thoughts exactly, he said before he pushed a big red button. Meanwhile, back in the testing site, Izuku had just gained 2 more pointed by delivering swift, strong punch to a fake villain's back. 56 points, that should be enough, he thought as he placed his right hand back into his pocket before feeling the ground suddenly shake. What's that? He thought with his eyes widened a bit. Izuku and every other turned their eyes to see a giant robot rising from the ground and glaring down at them with its red, robotic eyes. It started moving forward and crushing building like they were nothing but breadsticks, causing everyone scream and start running for their lives. So, that's the 0-pointer. Izuku let out as he regained his composure, feeling that all that it was big and nothing else. I guess I should make my way back to the entrance. He then turned around and was about to make his way back before he looked around and saw that there are other applicants having trouble getting away, due to being held down because of rubble from the damaged buildings. It wouldn't be right to just leave them like that. Izuku muttered as he froze the 0-pointer and then creates an ice ball and threw it at the 0-pointer, causing it to explode. Uraraka's pav. Wow. He saved me after I had injured my leg from the 0-pointer and the piece of the building. I thought as I looked at the green hair boy, who I find him as a good person. Izuku began to help his fellow applicants. The heroes in the viewing room were watching his actions and were satisfied to see that the applicant that caught their attention remembered one of the key concepts of being a hero: rescuing lives is just as important as fighting the villain. They continued to watch as Izuku helped the few other applicants that were having difficulty escaping the 0-pointer out until a loud horn rang through the testing area and Present Mix's voice soon followed. Time's up, he shouted, signaling that the UA entrance exam had come to a close. Izuku just looked around at the ones who let out sighs of relief, silently praying that they had passed the entrance exam. He honestly wondered just how many of them passed and how many didn't, but he couldn't forget to wonder if he passed, which he was confident he did. Izuku began to walk away from the exam area, but as he did, he met the eyes of a girl, one with wide eyes, a slightly sticking out tongue, and a hunched figure. They both just stared at each other with their own unique looks as the world seemed to disappear around them. Izuku's cold, relaxed, and serious look was speaking volumes to the girl's blank look, as if they were 2 wavelengths synchronizing with each other. They stayed this way for a few moments before someone bumped against Izuku, causing everything to go back to normal. He met the girl's gaze again as they both blinked a few times before she turned and walked to the entrance gate. As Izuku stared and saw her disappear in the crowding applicants, he was busy wondering one thing and one thing only. What happened just now, with her? Izuku thought as he began walking forward. Izuku's paw, it was weird. That girl with her tongue out, could she be somewhat of a threat or an ally? HMPH. All I do know this is that I am going to make it and be in the hero course for sure. I thought as I was heading home and meditate. Time skip. A week later, third POV. A full 7 days had passed since the UA entrance exam and Izuku couldn't get that blank-faced girl out of his head. It was a strange new feeling for him and he wasn't sure what to do with them. All his life, girls were rather odd around Izuku, either looking away when he looked towards them or just shake in fear if he stared at them for just a few seconds. It painted a clear picture that girls weren't or would ever be interested in someone with a too serious look and outlook on life, that is until the end of the entrance exam. It was the first time a girl hadn't turned away from his gaze or shook a bit, and it made him feel a strange, bubbling inside of his chest, but he couldn't describe it. No matter what he did, exercising, quirk research, reading, or watching TV, he couldn't get her out of his head. Even if they didn't say anything to each other or even met before that moment, he felt like he found someone like him, someone who was as serious as him and wasn't afraid to speak their mind when they needed to. Izuku didn't know why, but he wanted to meet her again and actually talk to her, even if it was just a few words. Izuku. His thoughts on the girl were interrupted as there was a knock on door brought him back to reality. He stood up from his bed and went to the door, opening it to reveal his mother holding an envelope with an excited look on her face. "It's here. The results of the exam," she said as she held the letter out to him. Izuku gained a small smirk as he took the note in his right hand. "Thanks, Mom. I'll let you know how I did the moment I finish it," he said as she nodded and went to the den in their apartment. Izuku closed his door and went to the desk in his room, sitting down in the chair before looking at the envelope. Well, it's now or never. Izuku thought as he opened the top of the envelope and looked inside, but what he found wasn't a letter but a small disc. This confused him as he reached for it and held it in his hands, examining it and finding a button on it. Izuku set the disc down and pressed the button, allowing a holographic screen to pop up with a man with shaggy hair and a tired look to pop up, a man Izuku recognized through his study of heroes for his notebooks. This man was Erasure Head, the underground hero. "Greeting, Mr. Midoriya. I'll make this short," he said without a care in the world with his hands in his pockets, not really wanting to do this. "You passed the entrance exam with 56 villain points and 30 rescue point. If you didn't know about rescue points, it's because it was a secret to see who truly had the heart of a hero, and you do. So congratulations, you made it into UA, don't be late on the first day." And with that the recording had ended and Izuku was left with a small smirk on his face for passing and confused thoughts on the rescue points. Sure, being a hero includes rescuing people, but he didn't think they'd be granted points for it, but it didn't matter. He was happy because he passed and was going to attend the best hero school in all of Japan. "Thank you, Grandmaster Kue Liang, for discovering my true powers and who I am. I will make myself a true hero because I am Lin Kuei. I am stealthful than the night, and deadly as the dawn. Guess I should tell my mother about this." Izuku got up from his lotus position and went downstairs to inform his mother. Chapter 4. Izuku's POV. "Okay, Mother. I'm going to school. I cried out to my mom, who she sees me as a strong-willed man who is now going to be a hero. Be careful out there, Izuku dear. And don't start no trouble. Inko called out, which I chuckled and left out to get to my dream school. UA. The day has come for me to be a hero. I walked inside the huge school, and saw a few other people who were in UA. Those who have weaker quirks were sent to general course, or those who doesn't have a quirk is sent to the support group. I was sent to class 1A. And I hope to God I don't run in with Kachan, for God's sakes. But lo and behold, I was. I'm hoping that I can just cope with Kakan's attitude and make him understand the meaning of humility and respect for others. I thought as I was now being able to find my seat. Oh, it's you. The boy with the ability to freeze. Tenya Iida replies as he was amazed of how I passed. I see you respect your desk as much as this guy does. Faye. Don't worry about Kachan. He knows the rules as much as I do. So you're? I asked the boy who wore glasses. Oh, forgive me. My name is Tenya Iida. I hope that you and I will do wonders together as heroes. Iida said to me, in which I nodded. Momo's POV. I came to the door only to see green hair, cute freckles on his face and his emerald green eyes. Is that Izuku Midoriya? I thought as my heart began to rapidly grow faster than I expected to do. Suddenly, a bobbed-haired brunette girl got his attention, which he sees her as a friend and not much of a love interest. Izuku sure is quite a handsome gentleman. Wait, am I interested in him? I stopped for a minute and processed what Izuku is doing. He was speaking to Iida, and the girl Uraraka. While more students who were in the class, I made friends with Kyoka Jiro, Kaminari Denki, Asui Tsuyu, Eijiro Kirishima, Toru Hagakuri, Mina Ishido and Koda. When I approached to Izuku, he was smiling at me. Well, we meet again, Miss Yaoyorizu. It has been some time since our first encounter when we were younger. Do you remember? Izuku reminded me of our meeting as I recall. The bullying of Katsuki Bakugo and his friends to Izuku defending me and end up beaten up, to the fact I see him as my savior and gave him the Matryoshka doll to hope he will remember me by. Yes, it has been a while, Izuku. I've missed you since our first day we met. I hoped that I would see you again and was interrupted by a voice which sounded like he was in no interest in teaching. Is that our teacher? I thought as a yellow sleeping bag and a man with red eyes who Midoriya, and I can guess that he hasn't slept in days. Aizawa's Pom, if you're here to make friends, I suggest you quit while you're ahead. I gave a somewhat serious attitude to my new students. All except for the green-haired boy who took it seriously. Okay class, the first thing you are going to do is get in your gym clothes and meet me outside. Huh. Everyone cried out except for Momo, Bakugo, Todoroki, and Midoriya. Outside at the UA school, the class were out wondering what does their teacher want them to do. Izuku crossed his arms in thought, as the black-haired teacher went into his explanation the test. The green-haired teen was observing the teacher closely. Observation finished. Conclusion. Aizawa doesn't want to attend the entrance ceremony for reasons unclear. Most likely just cannot be bothered with it. Second conclusion. Uses the words like logic and rational to justify his actions. The person next him moved, and Izuku was distracted for a second. Mezo Shoji, the tall white-haired teen with multiple arms, stood now on Izuku's right. Just like the green-haired teen, he had taken a few steps out of the group to get a better overview. But now occasionally glanced Izuku, as if to ask permission to stand next to him. An action that confused the green-haired teen, who simply decided to just nod at Shoji, who looked somewhat relieved. Maybe he was turned away a lot previously, need to make more observations to make sure. Softball throwing, the standing long jump, the 50-meter dash, endurance running, strength of grip, side-to-side stepping, upper body training and seated toe touch. Normal gym tests huh? Izuku muttered to himself as he repeated after Aizawa, who now asked Bakugo to demonstrate throwing the ball. With a loud die, Bakugo threw the ball extremely far, stunning his classmates. It's important that we discover your limits. That's the first rational step to figuring out what kind of hero you'll be in the future, and sets the basics on which you'll need to improve yourselves. Aizawa held up a device in which the distance Bakugo had thrown was displayed, 705.2 meters. While most of his new classmates marveled over Bakugo's strength or the fact that they were allowed to use their quirks during these tests, Izuku mentally noted his childhood friend's growth in power. The bright mood that had appeared with the announcement disappeared like snow under the sun, when Aizawa announced that the lowest scoring one would immediately be expelled. Your fates are in our hands. So welcome, this is the hero course at UA High. Aizawa grinned widely. Expelled. That's totally unfair. The class shouted as one man. Aizawa shook his head and scratched his hair. Natural disastershaiway pileups rampaging in the streets. In our country, calamity is always just around the corner. So I'd say that Japan is full of unfair things. Heroes are the ones who have to correct all that unfairness. Time to relax is over, kids. For the next 3 years UA will run you through the ringer. Use your strength to overcome it all and bring it on, that is plus ultra. From the side, Izuku carefully observed his classmates participate in the events, and mentally noted their results. First off was the 50-meter dash. First off were Iida and Tsuyu, a frog-like girl. Tenya Iida, time, 3.04 seconds. Tsuyu Asui, time, 5.58 seconds. Pair after pair, the students put down impressive times. Izuku silently cheered on Ochako, but soon focused on the next pair. One of the two was a blonde boy named Yuga Aoyama who was sparkling and fired a laser from his belt. Izuku however kept a closer eye on the other student, the girl with pink hair and skin. Mina Ishido as she was called, she secreted a liquid substance from the soles of her feet, and used it to put down the second best time yet. Then it was Izuku's own turn. Of course he was paired with Bakugo, who sent murderous glares in the green-haired teen's way. You didn't change at all, did you, Kachan? Izuku thought as he readied himself to sprint. From the sides he felt the eyes of several students fall on them. Emptying his mind, Izuku only focused himself on his goal, the finish line. The world around him felt silent when the robot referee gave the start sign. Both Izuku and Bakugo took off at full speed. Using his explosions, Bakugo was certain of his victory, but to his surprise Izuku sped past him, obtaining a time of 3.40 while the blonde had a time of 4.13 seconds. Amazing. That green-haired guy is crazy fast. Did he use his quirk? The electric blonde Denki Kaminari commented loudly, as he looked at Izuku in wonder. The silent teen shook his head, confirming he didn't use a quirk, earning him a surprised look from many in the class. In the background, Bakugo was raging and loudly declared that he would defeat that shitty nerd. By the time Izuku's flashback had ended, it was time to test their grip strength. Izuku quickly tested his own. Minus 145 kilograms from each hand, though luckily Shoji provided an unintended distraction, with a score that nearly broke the dynamometer. Taking that moment, Izuku quickly looked around and walked towards an invisible girl who didn't seem to know best hold the meter. With some instructions she was able to score at 28 kilograms, just above average. Seeing that Izuku was assisting, more classmates swarmed him and began requesting his help with the exercises. The time sped by and before Izuku knew it the other events were done, leaving the last one, ball throwing. Aizawa deliberately chose the exercises at random, to keep the students on their toes. During ball throwing it was Oshako's time to shine with her infinite score, impressing her classmates and even Aizawa somewhat. After a few turns it was finally Izuku's turn. The green-haired teen drew back his arm and was about to launch the ball. When Aizawa made his move, the scruffy teacher used his skill with the special scarf he wore, to try and wrap up Izuku, but a quick ice sword appeared in his hand. The scarf was cut into several parts and fell on the ground. The black-haired teacher looked annoyed at Izuku, who had taken a few steps away from him, and stood ready to attack anything that moved close to him. Midoriya, why are you here? Aizawa asked, looking closely at the green-haired teen. Izuku, still cautious for any further attack, observed his homeroom teacher for a few seconds before answering. To learn. To learn what? Aizawa pressed, looking seriously. Izuku frowned. He knows is assessing whether I will be a danger to the class or not. Thinking for a moment, Izuku came to a decision. Slowly he moved out of his stance, going against all the instincts and teaching drilled into him in the past, and dispensed the purple blade. To be a hero, and how to interact with others. Wow. I don't want to see him on his bad side, guys. Mineta cried out. He's a bit intimidating. It's like he lives on being a ninja instead of a hero. Mezzo said, in which Asui tried to put two and two together. Hero, he must have a powerful quirk and hardened mind to be like that. Suyu comment. Well, whatever he did, it was something that none of us can do. Shiro Hanta was baffled at how much the boy changed. At first, he was just like everybody else, but now, he was much more of a warrior from an era of shinobi. That was so manly. Kirishima spoke with excitement that Izuku was capable of creating a sword. Cute. But scary. Mina and Toru said simultaneously. What is with this guy? Kaminari said as he too was baffled by the green-haired boy. Midoriya. Todoroki looked at the boy in an attempt to find out more about his quirk and who he was trained by. That freaking nerd. Deku. I wanna know how the hell you got in here. Bakugo was going to attack Izuku, so I used my scarf to nullify Bakugo's quirk. Relax, Bakugo. Don't go over the edge on this kid. He knows what he is doing. I looked at Midoriya's eyes. The scruffy-looking teacher nodded, seemingly satisfied with the answer. I expect you to work hard. Also keep doing what you are currently doing in helping your classmates. Less work for me, and good practice for you. With that said, Aizawa turned around and walked back to his spot, ignoring the questioning looks of his students, while Izuku threw the ball at full power, getting a distance of 90 meters. Satisfied, Izuku moved back to his spot next to Shoji. Momo's pa, Midoriya. Was that your quirk you used? I looked at my savior and he smiled. No. What you saw was my power of the cold and ice. I was trained under the Grandmaster of a group of ninjas known as the Lin Kuei. I am a future Grandmaster and will be tested in due time. Izuku said, in which I was shocked. Izuku was trained by a group of assassins, but he wasn't done. They were once assassins, but since the age of heroes, the Lin Kuei was reformed, and since my mother took me to their base and taught me the art of combat and my powers. So that's why you have been freezing the thugs. I wonder why I have been thinking how you fought. I said while we listened to Aizawa. And for the record, I'm not going to send you home. Aizawa smirked. All of our classmates screamed, "What?" In which I had to speak. You guys didn't notice. Sorry. I forgot mention that. I sighed, but Izuku was smiling at the fact that he and I knew that this was a test. Something tells me that Midoriya and I are in for a great adventure as heroes in training. I smiled as we all left. So long, Izuku. Midoriya-kun. Chapter 5. The next day, Izuku's Pavi sat beside Momo while a certain purple-haired kid with balls sticking on it. He was gawking at Momo Yaoyorozu, which I find it weird. Mineta, quit looking at me. We already know that you got in this course to peep on the girls. Momo said as I was waiting on the teacher and keeping an eye on Mineta if he tried any funny business to make the girls dislike the guys. Okay class, there will be a hero who will start you off with another exercise. Mr. Aizawa said as we see All Might walk in acting like a normal person. All Might's Pav, I am walking in the door like a normal person. I said, in which most of the young students were happy to see me. All but except Midoriya. Young Midoriya was slightly smiling, but after what I told him to look, in reality, he was still determined to be a hero just like me. I felt a wave of happiness and sadness in Midoriya's eyes. His eyes were friendly but somewhat of a winter icy cold seriousness. Today's lesson will be, I said as the class were wondering what it was. But again, young Midoriya and young Bakugo knew what I was going to imply what the lesson was. Combat practice. I said, which Bakugo smirked menacingly and Midoriya had a look of combat practice. This is no training exercise. All right, young students. Suit up. I said as all of the students gone to their respective locker room. Momo's Pavi was getting dressed into my hero costume and joined up with the others. However, there was one person who was not out. I wonder what Midoriya is doing. Could he have trouble with his costume? I thought as we all waited. That damn nerd better come out. Otherwise. Bakugo screeched until a voice was called. Otherwise what, Kachan? Izuku said with a glare of, you'll regret what you say. Look at Bakugo, who in turn was seething, seeing how Midoriya's calmness and collective he was, which I find it attractive. Midoriya's costume was ninja-like. He had the blue accent and it was based off of a movie. His body was a bit ice cold as if he was sent to the South Pole. Midoriya, you look. I tried to say my sentence but Uraraka finished it. Awesome. Where did you get your costume upgraded? Uraraka was fangirling, but I felt a twang of jealousy when a girl talks to Izuku. How dare she makes a move on my Izu-kun. Wait, Izu-kun. When did I start saying that? I thought as my face turned red thinking about Midoriya. Yaoyorozu, are you okay? And why are you dressed like that? Izuku said, in which I lightly punched him on his arm. Wah. Oh, yes. I'm fine, Midoriya. And my costume will help me with my quirk. I shyly respond as we see more students come from out the locker room. Whoa. Totally punk. Is that Midoriya, Yaomomo? Jiro said as she was in shock of Midoriya's hero costume. I nodded a yes motion. That is indeed Midoriya, Jiro. I replied to my friend Kyoka. Jiro in return held my face as pink dusted across my cheeks. They say that the man in uniform is indeed makes a hero in him. You young students are going to face one another. It will be heroes versus villains. All Might explain the rules to all of us. Izuku sure is quite the cutie in his hero costume. When did I start liking him? I got to stop thinking about that and focus. I thought as Midoriya was paying attention and he was actually cool as ice. I raised my hand to ask a question. Excuse me, will it be a grade for this exercise? I said then it was Bakugo. Can we hurt our opponents? Bakugo said rudely, hoping he would hurt one of us, which I find it distasteful. But Uraraka's question was next. Will we get thrown out of the school just like Mr. Aizawa said during the quirk assessment? Uraraka said in worry. No, Miss Uraraka, ha ha ha. No one is getting thrown out. And no, Bakugo. You cannot harm your fellow classmates. Today, you will be paired into teams of 2 for this. In that fake building, there is a fake bomb. The villains must guard the bomb and stop the heroes from retrieving the bomb to their side. All Might said as he began putting lottery tickets to decide who will start first. So here's what the teams will be. Team A, Midoriya and Yaoyorozu Team B, Todoroki and Mezzo Team C, Uraraka and Mineta Team D, Iida and Bakugo Team E, Mina and Tsuyu Team F, Zero and Sato Team G, Toru and Ojiro. Team H, Jiro and Kota Team I, Tokiyami and Kaminari Team J, Aoyama and Kirishima Izuku's POV, so my draw is with Yaoyorozu. And I guess my opponents are Iida and Kacchan. I said as I mentally prepared for what Kacchan will do to me, but then I realized that I have to make sure that Yaoyorozu and I are safe in capturing the fake bomb. Finally, I'll get my hands on that worthless piece of crap Deku. He thinks he's better than me because of his quirk. Well, I'll show him where he needs to be. A pebble. A pebble that is always beneath me. Bakugo growled intensively. Chapter 6. Momo's POV. Midoriya and I went inside the fake building as All Might gave us 5 minutes to formulate a strategy. So Midoriya, I think it's best if we reach for the bomb carefully and not cause too much damage to the building. I said to Midoriya, which he understood what the plan was, but he said something that might rethink the plan. I do not know if it will work. Bakugo will definitely go after me. But since we're a team, I think it will be best if you go after the bomb and I'll join up with you as soon as possible. Midoriya said as I examined the place with a device I created from my body. I see. Your quirk is creation. It's a very good quirk to have in order to understand the molecular structure of the quirk. Midoriya smiled as I started to blush a bit, but as we talked, All Might said that the 5 minutes were up and the villains were coming up. We heard footsteps coming and suddenly, Midoriya's instincts kicked in, moving me out of the way from Bakugo's attack. He moved me out of Bakugo's attack. If I were the one to caught brunt of his attack, then we would lose this exercise. I thought as Midoriya held me close to where our noses touched. I blushed a deep shade of red on my face. Are you alright, Yaoyorozu? Midoriya looked at me and then looked back at Bakugo with a serious look in his eyes which I never seen before. Why yeah, I'm alright, Midoriya. We got to get to the bomb. I said as I composed myself from the early attack from Bakugo. Bakugo's POV. Deku. Where are you? I'm going to kill you if you don't show your face and fight me. I screamed, wanting to hurt Deku for joining the course and putting him back in his place as a useless quirkless nobody. Yaoyorozu, I need you to get to the upper level. I can deal with Kacchan. Besides, if you were to get caught in the crossfire, I will never forgive myself if you were hurt or injured. Deku said to Ponytail, which she was shocked at how brave he was, which pisses me off more. Okay. Midoriya. Ponytail said, which I ignored and only looked at the useless Deku. Please be careful. Alright, Kacchan. You want to fight? Then attack me if you can. Deku smirked, in which I find him mocking me. You are dead. I screamed, launching my quirk to get to Deku. The bane of my existence of becoming #1 hero in the world. Izuku's POV. I got ready for Bakugo's attacks as I see him launch his explosive quirk and threw a right hook at me. But in return, I grabbed his right hook and Seoinage throw him onto the ground with tremendous force. HMPH. As always, you rely on brute force to win against an opponent you cannot comprehend. You're always predictable, Kacchan. Since then, you've always been this predictable from the start. I said with a disapproving look in my eyes at Kacchan, showing him how reckless he is when I maintain control over the battle. Class 1A watching the fight with the teachers. Whoa. Who knew Midoriya is a master of martial arts? Kaminari was shocked, as well as Kirishima, Sato, and Mezzo. So manly. Kirishima said. Midoriya is whooping Bakugo's butt. Mina and Toru said simultaneously as they watched the new Izuku Midoriya. Something about him has changed. He's no longer the shy boy who I once met on the abandoned building. He's more confident in himself and he's cold as ice. All Might look as the fight was almost over. Back at the building, it's over, Kacchan. It's time for us to stop. Surrender now, and this will be all over. Continuing will be foolish, I said in a calm but serious tone of voice. In return, Bakugo growled and gritted his teeth. No. No. I shouldn't be losing to this quirkless reject. He thought as he stood up, bruised and beat up. He reached for his right gauntlet, holding a trigger. Young Bakugo. Stop. Don't pull the trigger. You will harm young Midoriya. All Might spoke within the mic. You fool. If you use that attack, it will prove how right I am that you were always this desperate to prove that you are number one. I said, which Bakugo gave a evil sinister smirk. Don't worry, All Might, he will be okay if he dodges. He released the pin off his gauntlet and a huge explosion was released. Momo's paw. I made it to where Iida was guarding the fake bomb, but suddenly, we heard a loud explosion shaking us. Oh goodness. Please let Izu be okay. I was a bit scared to what may happen to Midoriya. Bakugo, what did you do? That was very reckless of you to launch an attack like that. Iida said as I was thinking the same thing. If Bakugo hurt or injured my Zuzu, then I would scold. Bakugo's recklessness and grudge against Midoriya. All Might, you've got to stop the fight. Midoriya might be hurt or worse. Kirishima said to All Might, but what shocked him was when the smoke began to clear, they all saw an ice wall. Whoa. Did Midoriya made that? Sato was in disbelief as he said that. I believe he did. Aizawa said as he smirked. So Midoriya was trained under the Grandmaster. That's why his fighting style was almost compared to SubZero's art of combat. Bakugo's paw, but how? Why won't you stay down and be put down? I screamed as that damn Deku was still standing and covered in burns and cuts. Because unlike you, I fight to better myself, but I fight to protect those I care about. Deku said in a serious tone, and suddenly I felt my legs were frozen and then I was captured by the useless fool. Izuku's paw. I better get to Momo and Iida. This drill is not over until we recovered the fake bomb. I thought as I ran to the upper level of the fake building where I see Momo and Iida at a standstill. Momo. I called out to her, which Momo turned around and saw my injuries. Iida saw this as well. Midoriya, are you okay? I heard a loud explosion and Iida replied, but I cut him off. Don't you think a villain should be worried about a hero in battle? I smiled a bit after I felt a bit tired. Hey Momo, let's wrap this up. As I froze Iida's feet from using his quirk. Heroes win. All Might yelled as I passed out from Bakugo's explosion. However, Momo used her creation quirk to catch me. Momo's paw. I got you, Midoriya. What you did against Bakugo, it was risky, but thank goodness you were not dead. I said as I smiled and a tear fell on his cheek. Iida was freed and helped me out with Midoriya to be stretchered back to Recovery Girl. As he was sent to Recovery Girl, I was saddened to see him like this. Suddenly All Might asked us who was the MVP of the contest. Midoriya-kun. I thought and I raised my hand first. Yes, Miss Yaoyorozu. All Might said. The real MVP is Midoriya. He was the first to put his life on the line to protect and save someone and managed to stop the villains. I said as a blush formed on my face. Very good, Miss Yaoyorozu. We will continue with our exercise next. All Might spoke as the others were ready. But as they were doing the drills, I asked Mr. Aizawa. Mr. Aizawa, can I go to Midoriya's room to see if he is alright? I blushed after thinking about Midoriya. Mr. Aizawa smirked as he nods. I went to Recovery Girl to see how Midoriya's conditions were. Aizawa's paw. Hey, those two. They might actually be a perfect couple if they started dating. And the rest of my students, they will definitely go beyond plus ultra and become greater heroes. I thought as I smiled. Chapter 7. Momo's paw. As I sat in a room with Midoriya was laying, I began to feel a heartbeat in my chest as it grew louder and faster. Am I falling in love with Izuku Midoriya? I thought as I turned to see Midoriya resting peacefully, which I find it very cute. I smiled at him as he was asleep and gave my thoughts about him and how he changed. If I can confess to you, Midoriya, you really have changed since we were children. You were shy and brave. But above all of it, you were sweet and kind-hearted as well. And now here we are, you and I in the same class. You were now the same way when we met, but now have a warrior's attitude and drive to be a hero like all of us. As I gathered all the thoughts about Midoriya, I realized that I am indeed falling for the green-haired boy. Izuku woke up and began to stagger due to his injuries. I sat him back down and smiled. You really want to push yourself and then your injuries will open up again. I took his hand. Thanks, Yaoyorozu. Sorry for me to be reckless and fight Bakugo, it was a foolish mistake to face him. And for that, I am sorry to put you at total risk. Midoriya said sadly, but I squeezed his hand in order for him to know that it was okay. Midoriya's blush was so cute that I would thought of complimented it. He's so cute. I want to know more about Midoriya-kun and how he changed. And maybe become more than just friends, at that. We would be a close couple at that as well. Izuku's pop. I really love this girl. At first, I thought she would not be interested in a guy who was always afraid and quirkless, but ever since that incident at the park as kids to now where I saved her a group of quirk-using thugs, I want to be with Yaoyorozu. But does she feel the same way with me? I thought. Yaoyorozu, you really do look beautiful. Even as a child, I see you as a beautiful, sophisticated woman inside and out. I gave her the warmest smiles I could give and she blushes pink dust on her face as she turns away from me. Thank you, Midoriya. Clears throat. Now then, shall we get back to class? Momo said as she has a blush on her face still turned away. I nod yes and got up. As I got up, I did not notice the hug Yaoyorozu gave me. But in return, I gave one back. Back at the class we sat at our seats close to where Momo is away from the grape juice pervert, and as we hear Aizawa said it was time to leave, Bakugo was not present. I'm going to talk to him about this. I thought as Momo was looking at me with a slight blush. I turned and Momo was looking straight at the class. Bakugo's pov. I couldn't believe that I, Katsuki Bakugo, lost to a quirkless piece of garbage. And at that, he hides a quirk from me. I felt broken, humiliated, angry at that Deku for looking down on me. Suddenly, I saw a hand on my shoulder and it was that nerd who bested me at the battle trials. What do you want? Here to gloat how you beat me? I said as tears ran down to my face. No Bakugo, that is not what I am here for. You should be learning defeat and get stronger. But your pride won't let you. Deku said as my face cast a shadow at Deku. And you had a quirk. Did you hide from me when we were kids and just thought to make yourself think you were quirkless? I yelled, in which the damn nerd just stood there with his arms crossed. Is that all you are going to say? Kachan, we already know that you have the power but you're using it in the wrong way. You remind of the Grandmaster telling me about another warrior who was sent to the Netherrealm after his brother Bi-Han thought he killed his family and clan and was consumed with blind anger and vengeance. Deku retorted, which I did not know, nor do I care about some old guy who lost his clan and family. All I wanted was to be the #1 hero and prove to everyone that I am the best. But since you cannot listen to logics, let me put it to you in your terms of words. I have best you now and I'll do so again the next we meet. So consider yourself a rival to me because I am no longer Deku the useless am SubZero. Deku exclaimed, which shocks me and now somewhat motivated me to beat him more. Just so you know Deku, enjoy those victories because they will be your last. I left leaving a smiling Deku. The girls, Kiro looks like Midoriya said something to Bakugo. And he looks angry at him even more. Tsuyu said as she, Mina, Momo, and Ochako looked on. Well, whatever it is, Izuku had a smile on his face. Momo replies. But as she said that, she was afraid of what would happen if Bakugo were to hurt him. Please Izu-kun, don't get hurt too badly. I really want to confess my true feelings towards you. A fated battle between two men destined to combat. Ochako said, which caused the girls to look at her. What? Are you okay, Uraraka girl? Mina cried out as she didn't understand why Ochako said that. If that's the case, I don't want to think of what would happen if they go all out. I'm just worried about Midoriya because I love him. Momo was in deep thought over the green-haired cinnamon roll boy who was now a man after displaying his skills and determination to save lives. Yao Momo. Are you crushing on Midori? Mina teases as Momo's face was a beet red. That's not it, Ishido. I only see him as a friend and classmate. Momo lied to herself. She really loves Izuku but doesn't want Mina to start teasing about it. Again, fated battle between two men. Uraraka said as they left for home. At the Yaoyorozu manor, Momo was asleep, dreaming a peaceful dream until she heard an alarm going off. A young man with green long hair and freckles on his cheeks. Huh? Where am I? Momo looked at her hand. She saw a golden ring with a diamond on it. Morning, my dear. How'd you sleep? The young man was none other than Izuku Midoriya. Midoriya. How did I? Momo asked, but Izuku stops her. Honey, we're married and we have a daughter too. Don't tell me you've forgotten. Izuku chuckled as a little girl was running into the bedroom and greeted to her mother and father. She was like Izuku but had Momo's gorgeous eyes and smile. Hey my little princess, you ready to be a hero like mama and papa? Izuku held her in his arms. Momo was smiling and in tears. Never in her wildest dreams that she would be married to her one true love, and if that wasn't enough, they have a daughter. But when she closed her eyes, she was back in her bedroom and realized that it was a dream. Maybe it was destiny. Whatever the case, she knew what she wanted in her life, and that was Izuku Midoriya, and to be a hero with him as she placed her hand on her chest to calm her beating heart. The Midoriya's home. Izuku smiles as he dreamt that he and Momo were together and married. He loved this woman more than anything else. He would rather sacrifice his own life to save Yaoyorozu and the others. Maybe I should tell her how I feel about her. He looked at the Russian nesting doll Momo made for him when they were young children, and he never forgotten about it or the kindness of Momo Yaoyorozu. She is indeed my soulmate. He fell asleep in his bed and dreamed a peaceful dream. Chapter 8. As time rolls by, our heroes were in school and awaiting of what Aizawa's torture will be. Aizawa's Pav, all right class, today's assignment will be. I said in a lazy tone of voice. Which my students paid attention, wondering if it's another battle trial. To pick who will president of this year's class. I went back to my sleeping bag and laid there. Third Pav. As the polls were casted, Momo looked at the Lin Kuei cinnamon roll boy and smiled at his posture. He was reading his hero's analysis book and she thought it was cute to see him read. Just as he was about to turn to see who was staring at him, Momo turned her head back around to hear the results of the votes. Midoriya. 3 votes Iida. 1 vote Momo. 2 votes as Izuku and Momo stood up together. Momo was happy to see him as president, even though she would be a better one. She smiled at him and Izuku took the job responsibly and smiling, knowing that Momo was the vice president with him. Midoriya's looks perfect to be our class representative. I hope we can do our best. Momo thought as she held his hand secretly, as Izuku wasn't aware of what Momo did. Momo's Pav. At lunch, I watched Midoriya talking to Iida and Uraraka. I find my Izu-kun attractive as he ate katsudon and talking about heroics and the difference between it. Sighs, if only Midoriya was sitting beside me. I thought until we heard an alarm. This caused a riot in the school until Midoriya's voice was heard as he was floating in the air. That is enough. It was just the media, everyone. Midoriya spoke with authority and calmness. Which I smiled at his bravery as the representative of our class. That's strange. Why would the media be out here at the school? Aizawa thought but ignored it after present mic dispersing the media and news. The very next morning, Izuku's Pav. I awoke ready to venture with my classmates and Vice President Yaoyorozu at the USJ Unseen Simulation Junction for training with Mr. Aizawa and a pro hero by the name of 13. I was a bit nervous at first, but I was reminded by the original SubZero that I must look within myself and face the trials and tribulations of what dangers lie ahead. Even through combat, I still recalled my dream last night. I was happily engaged with a certain raven hair beauty and poof. It was like it never existed. I thought as I got on the bus giving out the orders of seatings. Midoriya, I am Suyu Asui. And I speak what is on my mind. Kiro Kiro. The frog girl quirk user said as I was listening to this conversation. What is it, Suyu-chan? I replied as she placed her index finger on her chin and her tongue stuck out. Your quirk is somewhat like Todoroki's. But you managed to master it pretty well, Kiro. Who taught you how to control your quirk and fight? Suyu wonders as well as the others. Yeah, bro. You were totally manly in my book. By the way, my name is Kirishima. It's nice to meet you, Midoriya. Kirishima smiles a shark smile. His quirk is hardening. He can harden his body to withstand any attack. I nodded and smiled at my new friends. To answer you that question, I developed the cold and ice by a grandmaster of a mysterious group of warriors. Tell me, have ever heard of the Lin Kuei? I said as Todoroki was hearing what I was talking about. Maybe he can help me using my mother's quirk more efficient. And who are the Lin Kuei? Todoroki was wondering how I gotten so strong in the past 10 years. Midoriya, who are the Lin Kuei? The Lin Kuei are a group of assassins in the past. I said, in which they gasped, including Momo. Do not fret. This is the time. The Lin Kuei are here to help ward off any villains who dare threaten the lives of others. When I was 4, I was deemed quirkless. I was ridiculed by my peers until my mom decided to take me to China and train under the Lin Kuei's Grandmaster Kuei Liang. Better known as the original SubZero. I said, in which Kachan was livid to find out that I was trained under a man who was deemed a worthy person to be taught by. What the hell, you nerd? How come you gotten stronger than me and not be the useless Deku I see before me? Bakugo screamed, in which I ignored his questions. Somebody's ego is inflated. The electric kid known as Denki Kaminari said. His quirk is electricity. He can create electrical currents and discharge it at his enemies. However, he has some drawbacks to overusing his quirk. What did you say, Pikachu wannabe? Bakugo shouted. Momo's pav. How revolting to be talking about this. I said as I covered my mouth with my hand in disgust. Yeah. But it's kind of fun watching them argue and all. Uraraka said in her happy tone. To my regards, I see Midoriya's reaction as Bakugo was arguing with Kaminari. He was quiet, at peace with the others, except Mineta, and as he was meditating, my heart began to rapidly beating and possibly explode just thinking about Midoriya. What is this feeling whenever I am around Midoriya? I may never know until we start training. I thought as we arrived at the USJ. As we got to the unseen simulation junction, we see our teacher Mr. Aizawa and with a pro hero as well. Midoriya was about to finish his sentence but Uraraka beat him to the punch. Pro hero. 13. She squealed as Ojiro was deadpanned in the face of Uraraka's reaction. I smiled a bit but something was not right as I could tell by Midoriya's face. Midoriya-kun. I thought as he was scanning the disaster zones of the USJ. Is something wrong, Midoriya? I asked him and he turned around and looked at me. I believe we got some unwanted guests coming. And I think Mr. Aizawa knows of this as well. Whoa cool. Those are some awesome fake villains. Mina cried out. No. They are not fake villains but real villains. Kids, stay here, I will handle them. Aizawa went down to face the villains. Suddenly, a man with blackish purple vortex appears in front of us. We got into our defensive line and we were afraid but not Midoriya. Sorry kids. Nothing personal but I must create havoc to bring out the symbol of peace out so we can kill him. Kurogiri stated as a black and purple portal separating us into different places of the disaster areas. Chapter 9. Izuku's POV water disaster area groaning. Wah what the? Where are we? I can't sense the others. They must have been separated by that villain's quirk. I thought as I was into the water. There I saw a villain trying to go after Suyu, Mineta, and I swam underwater and attacked the villains with moves the Grandmaster taught me during my life with the Lin Kuei. I land a sidekick to the secondary villain and an left hook to the body of a third. Even though I was surrounded, I had to make sure Mineta and Suyu were safe. Damn it. Not enough time to dodge the fourth attack. I thought as I was struck in the ribs by a right hook from another villain and he was pissed. Time to die, kiddo. Haha. Wah. Gwa. The villain was kicked back by Suyu. Midoriya. She stuck out her tongue and wrapped around me sending me flying to an abandoned ship with Mineta on her shoulder. Gasps for air coughs thanks, Suyu. Is everyone okay? I asked as Mineta nods and Suyu croaked like a frog. Good. It looks like we are going to fight for our lives until Iida gets back with All Might and the other pro heroes. Are you insane? Those guys will kill us. I say we just hang here until All Might and the others get here and save our bacons. Mineta was scared stiff but I had an angry look on my face. So you're just going to quit and be a coward for the rest of your life and still want to be called a hero? Pathetic. I said disappointed in him which his head lowered in shame. Karo Midoriya, I know how you feel but we can't win against real villains. She said but I gave her a smile. We have to. We have to work together and not get killed. So we're going to talk about our quirks and its abilities. Suyu, you go first. I said as we begin to talk. But in the back of my mind, I wondered why would the villains attack here. But also, he was worried about Yaoyorozu. I hope Yaoyorozu is doing okay. I would never forgive myself if anything happened to her. At the rocky disaster area Momo's Pa we were surrounded by villains and no way to reach for the others. The only thing we can hope is that Iida call the heroes and All Might to stop these villains. But as Jiro, Kaminari, and I were dealing with the villains, my mind was racing over the fact that Midoriya is probably hurt or worse. Please. Be safe, Izu-kun. I thought as I dodged an attack and created a net to nab a villain while Jiro uses her sonic waves from her ear jacks to stun the villains. Hey Momo, can you create a thick blanket to cover Jiro and yourself? I'm going to electrify these guys. Kaminari said as he was going to unleash an attack that he wasn't fully prepared to use since he developed his quirk. Third POV as the students were battling the fodder villains, Aizawa was making quick work with the 10 fodder villains until a purple and black portal appeared. Eraserhead. Aizawa. I don't want to kill you but. Since you and 13 are in the way, I'll see to that Kurogiri and Mapet will kill you too and then All Might is next. Shigaraki's voice was rasped and he was scratching his neck like if he had an itch. He had a severe hand on his face and it would give people like Baraka, Farah Tor, and Scarlet a run for their money. So you're the ones who sent the media to our school causing the huge chaos. Aizawa pointed out, in which the villain smirked. Shigaraki's paw, that's right. It was a chance to lure All Might out. But since you won't tell me where All Might is, I'll leave my pet to kill you and your precious students. I said as a bird brain creature appeared. It attacked Mr. Aizawa, breaking his arms as blood was dripping. My Nomu screeched was loud enough for some of those brats can hear it. Meanwhile, at the water disaster area, Izuku's pav, as we told each other about our quirks, Suyu leapt in the air due to her quirk as a frog, while Mineta threw his purple balls from his hair at the villains, causing them to be stuck together. As they were stuck, I created an ice bomb to stop them in their tracks. Suyu! I shouted and her tongue caught me as she carried Mineta. We were in the water from the shipwreck area as the bomb went off, causing the villains to freeze. Suddenly, we saw the ringleaders of this chaos, which I find it hard to believe. So what are they after? If they were targeting us, that will be a problem that I must fix in, I thought, until we heard one of the villains. If All Might isn't around here, then we've wasted enough time here. Kurogiri said as he was with Shigaraki. You're right. Let's go home. Shigaraki said, but as we thought they were leaving, my instinct told me that they weren't leaving without harming my fellow classmates to bring All Might out of hiding. But first, let's kill some of his precious students and make him realize who we are. Shigaraki's hand was reaching out for Suyu's face. I immediately kicked his hand, which irritates Shigaraki. You will not lay a hand on my friends. I got ready to face the two villains and looked at Aizawa's broken body. Mineta, Suyu, take Mr. Aizawa and get to the plaza where the others. I said sternly to my two companions, which they were worried for me. Hiro, please be careful, Midoriya. Suyu grabbed one of Aizawa's arms. Why do you have to be so cool? Mineta cried tears. Don't worry. I will protect everyone from these guys. I said as I was preparing to attack the two. Bakugo's paw shitty hair and I managed to beat some of the weaker fighters, and we see Deku and the villains staring down. You better not die, Deku. Because if you did, I'll kill you myself. Momo's paw. We managed to survive the ordeal, and Jiro, Kaminari, and I saw Todoroki, Bakugo, and Kirishima watch as Midoriya was facing a creature that we do not know. I was afraid of Midoriya's well-being as a vice president of my class. I saw Todoroki attack the creature with his ice quirk, but it didn't do damage to it. He was hit on impact but recovered from the now Nomu's attack. Bakugo attacked and his explosive quirk didn't phase it, but he received a throw to the walls of USJ as Kirishima went to check on Bakugo. My goodness. None of our attacks worked. I hope Idas is getting All Might. I thought as Midoriya created an ice ball and it didn't slow him down, but he stood his ground punching and kicking the Nomu. But as the Nomu wasn't phased of the attack, I was scared for Midoriya. Gasps Midoriya, look out. I screamed to Midoriya. But it was too late. A gust of wind blew and air pressure was there. To my disbelief, Izuku, the one I pined for, was dead. I slowly cried as tears fell on my face and my knees went down, hoping that Izuku was not dead. Suddenly, there was a clone that looked like Izuku. He was made of ice, making the Nomu's arm to freeze up. Midoriya, I thought as I see him clutching at his midsection. Panting, good thing Sensei taught me the ice clone before I left back to home. If calf blood spewing from his mouth as he tried to regain consciousness. If this keeps up, we're finished. I got to risk it all. All in. 1. Attack. Midoriya thought as I see his injuries. His ribs were poking through his midsection. He was fighting from fatigue, and he was losing blood by the minute. Please. That's enough, Izu-kun. All Might is coming, don't do it, I gasped when Izuku was forming a massive ice blast freezing the Nomu, but he wasn't done. He formed a sword made of ice from his hands, running at full speed. I tried to stop him as my tears were pouring down. Izuku! I screamed. Todoroki's paw. I couldn't believe how determined Midoriya's will to defend us from the villains. Midoriya, your vows to be a hero are very true. But you are risking your life for us. Don't do it. I thought as I considered him as my classmate and representative of our class. Bakugo's paw. That damn nerd stealing my glory to beat the damn bird brain and those damn villains. I thought as I gritted my teeth and clenched my fist as they were turning white. Kirishima's paw. So manly. I said as Midoriya slashed the creature in half. Izuku's pav panting grunting, that's done. Now I hope All Might comes and take care of the others. Because, I don't know how much longer I can hold them off for so long. I thought as my friends were stunned and shocked to see that the Nomu was regenerating. I didn't know it until it was too late. The Nomu threw back his arm and delivered a solid punch to my chest, sending me into the wall. Ha 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 ha. I have forgotten to mention that my Nomu has shock absorption and regeneration quirks. A feeble attempt to thwart me, kid. But now it is time for you to die. Shigaraki said, rasped out. As the Nomu looked at Shigaraki, he gave him the signal to finish me off. But as it was about to kill me, All Might appeared, but he was angry. He ripped his tie from his neck and looked at the villains and the Nomu. Do not fret, young ones. For I am here. All Might stated as he jumped down from the USJ Plaza and stared dead in the eyes of the Nomu and the villains. As the Nomu was choking me, it released its grip and I fell to the ground with a thud. Momo ran towards me and held me in her arms. She was broken into tears as I tried to gain vision of what was going. All Might's pav, young Midoriya. He withstood his ground and protected the others, even costing him his own life in his hands. You are indeed worthy of the name SubZero and maybe worthy to one for all. I thought as I see Miss Yaoyorozu holding a semi-conscious Midoriya in her arms crying. Well, All Might, I thought for sure you didn't show up. Luckily, those brats were good easy practice for my Nomu to kill you. Shigaraki stayed as Kurogiri showed up. Growls, your reign of terror is going to end. How dare you harm these children? I yelled and attacked the Nomu head on. Suddenly, young Midoriya was groggily getting up, which Miss Yaoyorozu was begging him not to go out and fight that Nomu. No. Please Midoriya, you can't go on like this. Let All Might take care of them. You've done enough to make sure none of us were hurt or worse. Momo said softly as her voice hitched from her tears. All Might, be careful. Midoriya said as he was laying on Miss Yaoyorozu. If he stays in this position, he'll be vulnerable and they will figure out who he really is. Flashback. Young Midoriya, I should tell you about my quirk one for all. If I stay in my buff form for too long, then Calf turns into a skinny version of All Might. I'll revert to this. I explained to Midoriya, but he respected my wishes to make sure I will not be exposed by his classmates and to the public as well. I'll keep your secrets, but I will think about your offer of one for all, All Might Sensei. You have my word, by the code of the Lin Kuei. Midoriya's words were true. He then explains to me the Lin Kuei and its past and future. At first I was shocked to think that this group were a league of assassins, but after his master and original hero Kuei Liang reformed the Lin Kuei, I realized that there was a debt that needed to be paid by becoming a hero agency in secrecy. Flashback ends. However, I was not faring well against the Nomu, but when the Nomu hit me in my fatal wound from my last encounter with a person from my past, I saw Todoroki and Midoriya's ice freezing the creature. Which lead me to use 100% of what is left of OFA. I know you heard me say this once. But I will etch it into your hearts once more. Remember to go beyond plus ultra. I shouted as I delivered 300 blows to the Nomu's body, causing its regeneration to not function as well as the shock absorption. And with one last punch, time stood still. I kept the fist and said, farewell. As the Nomu was sent flying, Shigaraki's rage was boiling. He hated the fact that his Nomu was defeated. As he was scratching his neck in anxiety, I knew my time was running out due to using OFA. But as I was getting ready to be killed by Shigaraki, ice was formed on the floor, and it was Midoriya's power who did that. Izuku's pav panting passes out due to my injuries, young Midoriya. All Might cried out as he sees me pass out from exerting my injuries more. Izuku. Kirishima said as he checks on his new friend. Damn that nerd. Bakugo cursed at his once former best friend. Please don't die on me, please. Momo cried as she saw the other pro heroes arrive, nabbing each villains except for Shigaraki and Kurogiri, who managed to escape. As soon as she said those words, my hand reached for hers and I gave off a weakened smile on my face, which she buries her face in my chest in tears of joy knowing that we survived. However, I was not dead. Just fatigued, injured, and smiling because I had done something that no mortal man could ever do. Save my friends and save the girl whom I adore. Third POV. Over the past few days, school was cancelled for 2 weeks after the USJ incident, and most students were traumatized by the fact they fought real villains in there. However, a certain boy who is now known as the next successor of both the Lin Kuei and future One for All was sleeping in his hospital bed, but he was not alone. The raven-haired girl Momo Yaoyorizu was by his side, resting her head on the side of his bed, smiling as she too fell asleep. The end. Thanks for listening. I hope you guys liked it. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a like for more what ifs. See you guys in the next video. Peace.